Good afternoon, everyone. So, I'm thankful to the organizer for inviting me for this talk, and I'm really thankful to the Dr. Madan Jaraman, who has given me this opportunity to present this very topic, which is very sensitive to, at least for the Indian context. So I will just give you a brief about this and will be touching only the basic aspects. So my topic is article processing charges. Next slide, please. So as we all know, there are three persons. One is library administrators who are having a financial restrictions. Then the researchers or the authors, which always try to locate best outlet for their research publication, but have financial constraints. And then there are publishers who always want to increase their revenues, and there's a new thing is coming, is like article processing charge. Next slide, please. So the academic publishing is undergone major changes, and it has now transitioned from print to electronic format. And the idea is to publish open access, is to give articles available free of cost to the on the web or internet. Next slide. So publishing journals can be divided into three categories. One is the subscription model, where the articles are published, and when you want to read it, then you have to pay some fee to those articles, and it is to be given by the readers or by the institutions. And then open access, the fee is charged from either the corresponding authors or from the institution or the research body which is funding the particular research. And then there is a hybrid mode which combines both the models of open access and subscription based. Next slide. So this is how the subscription based, whenever we ask for any article, they charges. There are certain charges for per article, so it will be costly affair. Next slide. So there is a paradigm shift, and now has transformed the academic publishing, and as a substitute of subscription publication, there is a open access publishing through the article processing charge is now popular. Next. So these are the major differences. This is my paper I have published during the COVID-19, and it has got many citations also, because it was a really touching paper to Indian authors. So this summarizes what are the differences between the open access and the standard subscription journals. So obviously it is a open access is payable and it's free for all, and the license is not like copyrighted material, and it is always open. It's follow the Creative Commons licenses. Article sharing is allowed. Downloads definitely will increase because of the open access. Less rejection rate is less in open access journals, but now when I have written this paper, then it was suggested that there is a high chances of rising in the citations, and the rejection rates are slightly less, but now the things are almost equal in both the journals, both the kind of publication. Then the speed of publication is faster, and there are other things which are differences between these two. Next, please. So the article processing fees, or also known as the publication fees, it is required for the open access, and also it is required whenever there is in the printed form, whenever there are more number of figures or more number of tables, the journals usually require fees for the additional figures and the tables, but it is not required in open access journals. Next slide. So the aim of the open access is to produce transparency and reproducibility in the scientific research, thereby providing equal access to discovery and the knowledge. So because these are the open access, it is available online, so there is a rapid sharing of the research, and it works on a model which is commissioned by the G20 and the European Commission. It works on the FAIR model, that is the findable, accessible, interoperable and reusable. Next slide. So how the open access changes the way in which the articles publish. So all articles are freely available, universally accessible. The authors can hold the copyrights for their publications, and the copies can be permanently archived not only for the publishers but can also elsewhere. Next slide, please. So who all are benefited from the open access? Firstly, the authors, who can disseminate their work to the widest possible audience, and this will improve the citations. And also, it is not only limited to the libraries, but you can also find it on the net. So it enhances the literature searching, and the results can be results can be publicly shown, because the taxpayers' money is involved, and then reading is equal in all, because whether that person is from the high income country or from the lower middle income country or the lower income country, all can access the articles very well. Next slide, please. So not only these advantages, but also the efficient research and innovation and collaborative networking is improved with the open access. Next, please. So the golden open access gone through various cycles, various processes, and at one point of time the APC is required, and then the article is open for immediately for the readers all over the world. Next slide. So why the APC is required? So APC is required basically for the peer review administration and management, copy editing, text type settings, then professional production of the different formats like PDF formats or other formats, and then for the dissemination of the published paper in various institutions in the library. And also the process is also, the money is also required for processing to applying for the PubMed or PubMed Central or other areas. So, and it is sometimes also the money is required for some journals, some publishers also provide money to the reviewers. Next slide, please. So recently, this Informa Taylor Sciences has started giving honorarium to the reviewers, and they have listed more than 40 journals so that they can speed up the process of publication, and they named it as an accelerated publication, and they charges very high, and but also paid honorarium to the reviewers. Next slide, please. So, but the charges varies from journal to journal. They can like from 1,000 rupees to $1,000, so they can vary. And also the low and middle income countries are usually exempted, and there are some riders are there. So there is no transparent policy is there for the waiver, and publisher charges an APC in a gold open access business model, and it can be waived off partially or fully, but there is no transparencies there, and you have to apply, you have to ask for the waivers. So also it is very cumbersome to understand the policies, and sometimes the authors get discouraged from asking the waivers. Next slide. So this is the slide showing full waivers to the low income countries, and lower middle income countries can have to pay some 50% of the discount. Next slide. So how the APC eligibility is determined? So it is determined based on the WHO classification of the gross income, gross national income, and also the per capita or GDP of that particular country. And accordingly, that the low, high, low, and middle income countries are divided based on the GDP they have. And so it is very, it is classified according to the WHO, according to the World Bank, and also some journals and publishers have specific variations exist. Next slide. So, and it is also important to distinguish these journals, open access with the predatory journals, because these journals deceitful gives impression that they are the open access journals and they are the journals which are really indexed, but they are the warning signs whenever you have a mail which you receive, and the editors or the mail promises that they will give short time to publications, they have low APCs, and also they assure that also the assurance of publication is there, that it will be published definitely, and ambiguous information on email or web page, or the false claims of indexing, one must see that whether this is a predatory journal or the open access journal. So this compromises the article quality and also the repute of authors and institution. Next please. So I have published this article with whether the article processing charge is really barrier to the publication. Next slide. Yes, for the Indian context, if you see that we have a very significant financial crunch for the Indian researchers, and our institute do not pay for the publication and research, and we have a very limited options of journals where we have to submit our articles. So, but less well-off institutions, academic students are unable to publish their work, though we have a lot of clinical materials and people want to publish it, but we have very little option because of this open access problems and because of this APC. So, in nation that hardly assess the financially for the research, APC waiver is needed. Next slide, please. So the request of the APC can be made at the time of submission or when the article is accepted. And the problem is that whenever we request for the APC's waiver, there is always chance for delay in review process, and many times it is rejected. So if they are not convinced with your letter of waiver. Next slide, please. So we can get either no waiver or we can get 20 to 50% of waiver, and sometimes only rarely the full waiver is required. Next slide, please. So this slide shows the approval of waiver by one of the Spring Nature journal. And next slide, please. So also because I have talked about the transparency, we have written another article: can open access publishing be made just for the authors from the lower middle income countries? So it is defined by the Commission of European Commission, but it should also be jargon friendly, universal, sharing and transparent to each and everyone all over the world. Next please. And so what are the solutions of APC? How we can deal with it? Next slide please. So either your institution can become a member of the publications, for example Biomed Central, so that whosoever is going to submit their article, the APC can be waived off. So in India we have a member list, only 3 of the institutions are member in the Biomed Central. Next slide please. So they are the journals which can be supported by their associations or the foundations or societies. So the journal can own their whatever expenditure they have, so they don't ask for the APC. Next slide please. Or the journal can make their sister journals. One journal can run on the subscription basis, and another journal can be run where the sister journal is made, which can charge the which can be the good alternative for the balanced revenue of their main non-open access journal. Next please. Or there may be some reward or recognition to the river where the APC can be discounted. Next please. Or if we have any research funding which can offer us also the publication charges along with the funding the proper research. So these are the sources. Next please. Or there are institutions like AIMS which provides LRA to their faculty members, which is amount costing 1.5 lakhs. They can spend some money in the publication fees. Next please. So this is the full spectrum of open access. This is very well given in all over the websites. So next please. So the new initiative has come up for this challenging APC is that some authors propose that the open access model of publishing can be divided into either green open access or platinum open access. The green open access can be typical of APCs. Open access publication wise platinum open access can be non-profitable. like for example, Public Library of Sciences, PLOS has given the model in which they don't ask for the money from the authors. They have certain things, they have made certain institutions as a members, or they can have advertising or subsidies or volunteer or contribution which can be used as a APC. Next please. So the lack of, for the PLOS, the lack of funds should not be the barrier to the publication. So they have opened two newer things, Research for Life and PLOS Publication Free Assistant, to give some assistance to the publication fee. Next please. So in conclusion, the AP should not be the compulsion for the low middle income countries, and we have to empower and support authors from the low middle income countries for this endeavor in order to enhance the medical knowledge and benefit of our patients and researchers. Thank you.
Immediately.